Hey, how's it going? My name is Joe Markman. I'm with a company called the Lake Defense Force, and welcome to another episode of Milfoil Monday. This is where we go over a native or non-native plant. We tell you its uses, its characteristics, benefits. Hey, just kidding. Actually, what we're doing is the same thing, but it's a little bit different. We're doing native plants that we recommend for your shoreline or pond restoration program. This week, we're talking about the Sitka willow, otherwise known as the pussy willow. So where is the Sitka willow native to? Well, it's native to the entire North America, and there are actually over 300 different varieties. So what are the characteristics of the Sitka willow? Well, they grow in bunches along the shoreline or really any wet, damp soil around a pond or a stream. They can grow between 6 to 25 feet tall. These things are a goddamn beast. The willow, which one makes it a little bit different than other willows, the Sitka willow has a shimmery, glossy set of leaves towards its base. It stands out a little bit than the other ones who do not have these same leaves. The plant itself is actually used, and this is why we like it, on these pond and shoreline redevelopment projects, but its root system is pretty rhizomatous, the term. It's when there's a rhizome root system. And what it does is they work as great shore stabilization plants. So instead of installing these big bulkheads or barriers or support structures, what you can do is just plant a bunch of these Sitka willows in an area to really firm up that shore. The shrub's really easy to propagate as well. You just take a stake, a live stake is what it's called when you just have one of those big things, and you just plant it right in the ground, throw some water on it, wait a few weeks, and it actually starts to grow and prosper immediately. Now, one defining factor of the Sitka willow, obviously often referred to as a cattail, as you might know, is there is an invasive version of this called the non-native cattail in Washington. And right below the top of the cattail, or by the top of the Sitka willow, there's this little fuzzy part. And that's where the seeds disperse from, and that's how one of the ways that it propagates. Now, the Sitka willow doesn't have this fuzzy part, but the hard part, and this is why I'm telling you about it now, is that this fuzzy part is only visible in late summer to early fall. So identifying a native versus non-native is virtually impossible the majority of the year until this fuzzy part is visible. But that being said, if you really do need to get it removed or do something, do consult your local Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife or just give us a call. So how does the Sitka willow reproduce? Well, propagation is really easy. We already touched on it, so I'll be quick here. 3 ways. Seeds, so disperse when the little fuzzy pouch at the top opens up and lets seeds disperse naturally through the wind or other animals, 1 way. 2, through a rhizome root system at the base of the plant. You can literally just take out that rhizome and move it somewhere else. The rhizome is actually what makes it really tricky when doing a complete pond restoration project because they are hard to remove. And last but not least, one we also discussed, but the live stakes. You can just take one of the Sitka willows from one area and just plant it in another, and there you go, brand new colony of Sitka willows. So how do you maintain this plant, or rather, what is the yearly maintenance required to keep a population of Sitka willows healthy? Because we are recommending this plant for pond projects and shoreline redevelopments, it's probably pertinent to know how to take care of it. It's actually really easy. You just prune it in late winter or in early April. Specifically, this is specifically in the Pacific Northwest. Maintenance directions may change, but generally for Pacific Northwest, you prune it once in March or early April. And then if you find any dead or broken branches, simply just take them off and take them to your yard waste. Once they fully mature, which is in the 1 to 2 year range, really virtually almost no maintenance is needed besides just removing and a basic little pruning. So why historically do we care about the Sitka willow? Well, the bark of the willow was actually used to make string by tribes all over the world and cultures all over the world. Again, this plant is native to North America, but also the rest of the northern hemisphere. The branches were really great for making awesome, sturdy baskets. Not surprisingly, like every other plant, the bark of this plant, or most barks, this bark was used medicinally. Fun fact here, but the willow bark contains something called salicin, which is the chemical from which aspirin was originally derived. So apparently if you cook enough of this bark, maybe it can relieve some of your pain. All right, and for the last section, my favorite section is, can it be bottom barriered? And the answer is Yes, because it does have a rhizome system, you can bottom bury it. So what you can do is you can chop the tops off of these plants and then just throw a burlap bottom barrier, gotta be burlap, gotta be chemical free, and it's gotta be biodegradable, over it to block the sunlight from those rhizome roots. But because this plant is hardy, does spread by seeds, it can grow on top of it again, so you gotta be careful for it. So if you have a large population, you don't wanna use chemicals. Again, we don't always recommend using chemicals to get rid of things. A bottom barrier can be your best solution. Thank you for joining us on the first edition of a Milfoil Monday, where we recommend a native plant that should be used for your shoreline or pond restoration project. Again, my name is Joe Markman. The company is the Lake Defense Force, and I'm hoping that you have a Milfoil free day.